name is D.FINED, and I am the principal at D.FINED Performance Solutions. And this is the Defined Engagement podcast. And today my guest is Mr. Kevin Buck. And Kevin is a leadership development expert. And I'll tell you a little bit more about our background. But let me share his bio with you first. Kevin Buck is a collaborative leadership and executive coach, leveraging more than 30 years of consulting experience to guide organizations towards self-transformation. As the president and founder of Emergent Success in 2006, he and his team offer collaborative leadership consulting and advisory services, including the following: executive coaching for individuals and teams, talent development, succession planning, strategic planning and facilitation, and leadership training and education. The mission of Emergent Success is to assist individuals, teams, and organizations in co-creating the optimal conditions for success to emerge. Again, welcome, Kevin. I'm glad to see you here today.
It's great to see you, Doug.
And thank you so much for taking the time to do this extra webcast with me. And you know, let me just start that, okay, here, let's start this way, Kevin. Kevin and I are actually, we go way back to college. We were on the same dorm floor at the University of San Francisco in the year of our Lord, 1976. And I just want you to give me your first, it's all about me, Kevin.
Oh, okay, good.
Give me your first memory of me.
Well, I think
and you don't have to be nice.
Oh, okay. I'm a nice guy. I think my first memory of you would be meeting you on our first retreat that we did as part of the program that we were in, and found you to be a wonderfully positive, optimistic, and idealistic young man. So. And so someone I resonated with because I was kind of similar myself. So
yeah. Kevin, let me say my first impressions of you were definitely, it was obviously you had a lot of confidence, and you were a leader. You know that you were self-assured in a really good way, not cocky, but you had a self-assurance to you that you're going to do something here, you're going to make something happen, and you know, you and me were all in. We were all in at the beginning, right?
That's right, we were.
Yeah. So, Kevin, we graduated from the University of San Francisco, and you want to just take us on a quick journey about after that? I went into the Navy. You went somewhere else. So tell us a little bit about your background after the University of San Francisco. And again, you studied where? At USF, you studied theology and?
That's right, theology.
Okay, guess what? That's what I did.
And that led you to the Navy.
That's right. Doesn't that make sense?
That's probably a better story than my story.
well, yeah, it's like this. Honest to goodness, what do you do with a theology degree if you're not going to be, a Catholic priest or something like that? What do you do? So, our prospects were this: teach at a Catholic high school. That's probably the best we could do. I could have maybe gone on and studied more, but so tell me your path after college.
Well, mine was a little bit more in line with my degree than maybe the Navy. I actually got hired as a part-time youth minister and a full-time 7th grade teacher my first year out of college.
Wow.
Which I tell people that after teaching 7th grade for 1 year, it helped me figure out that I never ever wanted to do that again.
Fascinating.
So it was a good career move in terms of clarifying what I didn't want to do.
Sure.
Became a full-time youth minister, worked in parish ministry for 11 years.
Wow.
So not as a youth minister, but eventually as a pastoral associate at a Catholic parish, actually my home parish that I grew up in.
Wow.
I had a lot of parents asking me about how to deal with their teenagers, and I was 22, young, inexperienced, had no idea. I'd just gotten out of my teenage years myself, So I don't know. So I thought I would go figure this out. So I got a master's in counseling psychology.
Uh-huh.
And during the time I was working in parishes, I was also learning to be a marriage and family therapist. After that, 2 years after I got my degree and license, I taught 12 years at Pepperdine. And then I also got involved in executive coaching in 1999 and presented at ICF at their Master Certified Coaching level in 2001. And then started working with the St. Joseph Health System. I was Director of Leadership Development for a large health system here out of Southern California. Now it's part of Providence Health System, Providence and St. Joseph Health System. And then in '06, I started my own company. In 2006, did Emergent Success, so doing executive coaching, leadership development, and strategic facilitation.
Yeah, so interesting. Besides the Navy, I went into healthcare after the Navy, and I actually, ended up as I guess we called it organization development and professional learning, but that's where I brought leadership development to a number of healthcare organizations in New Orleans and Augusta. So there we were again, kind of doing similar things. And tell me, are you still working with healthcare executives much?
I am. I as a consultant, I continue to work with them. I'm currently working with the largest Catholic healthcare system in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And what are your challenges with them? What are you helping them with?
Well, the challenge for this team is that they are now the largest because they just had a merger with another health system. And so one of the things that we're seeing in healthcare is a lot of merger acquisition movement. And learning how to do that well is a hard thing to do. And there aren't a lot of examples of doing that well.
That's right.
Not you can go, oh, merger acquisition. Here's a good example. Not really.
Yeah. They're colossal failures most of the time in any industry.
They are. And then when they asked me, do you think we need a facilitator? I said, I'm not trying to sell myself. I'm just telling you, if you can point to a good model without a facilitator, then go for it. But I just don't know of one. So I'm helping this national team really work together and form as a team and really have the difficult conversations, have the generative conversations that kind of co-creates the team. Because my fundamental belief is it's not a lot of team building exercises and experiences that really work. It's really about having the right conversations about the right things at the right time with the right people. And if you're doing that as a leadership team and you're really building, that builds a team.
Yes.
And that builds trust, that builds the relationship, all of those things. So it's great to go have a ropes course. That can be wonderful. And at the same time, I haven't seen anything build team in my 30 years as those conversations.
That is awesome to hear, and I have stood atop a telephone pole and was scared out of my wits. I was shaking up there on the top before I had to jump off, and all that was good. But I totally agree with you. As I progressed in my career, this whole idea of team building, I just think that you got to make this whatever. First of all, probably don't call it team building, but you have to make it about the work. It has to be about the organization. It can't just be some one-off, like let's throw darts or whatever we're going to do to kind of have fun and bring the team together. The teams come together by working together about the work.
Well, and that's exactly right, because if you don't do that, then what happens after an offsite retreat, a leadership team retreat, whatever you want to call it, executive retreat, people kind of say afterwards, that was fun, it was cool, so on and so forth. However, what we really needed to do is talk about X, Y, and Z, and we didn't have those conversations. And if we don't have them here, when are we going to have them?
Right. Awesome to hear. I'm in the engagement space, employee and leadership engagement space, and specifically teaching leaders and employees about sort of the things that make for high engagement in an organization. And fascinating conversation. I met a gentleman this week who kind of called me out on LinkedIn when I talked about engagement as it is. And he pretty much said that HR folks, you know, I guess well-intentioned people, and engagement is all kind of the buzz these days. You just kind of like let me have it in a really nice way. That what kind of results are you getting from quote unquote engagement? Where are the results? What the reason CEOs aren't listening to maybe people like me or HR executives or even people like you, because they want to see something happen. They want engagement to they want proof that engagement does something. Now, there's lots of data out there that engagement can lower turnover and increase retention and build profits, blah blah blah, and all that's good. But there's never been a specific, to me, a specific metric that says engaged organizations are delivering 20% more revenue, or lowering turnover at this organization that we worked with by 25% or whatever. So you know what he does? He goes in and works with the CEOs of companies, and this is his model. He goes in, works with the CEO. The CEO hires him.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thing that happens after he starts the engagement is he helps the CEO with a 5-minute video. And the video goes across the world. However, he's worked with huge organizations. The video goes out, and the CEO says something like this: "You guys are all doing great work. I love the passion you have. I love the work you're doing. But our shareholders are just not happy with us. It's never enough for them." So he just kind of tells the reality that they have to perform better. And he says, "So I need to engage you in this project with you and me, employees. I need you to identify the 10 biggest foolish things that we're doing in our company. I want every employee, I want every leader, I want every manager to provide the 10 most stupid things that this company is continuing to do." And they do. They really do. Got rid of the corporate jets, got rid of this talent, this group in the IT department that were called career counselors. That
Mm-hmm.
they're spending millions of dollars just within the IT department with career counselors.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? But
Right.
it became a boondoggle for certain people. And so he does deliver results, and he gets his fee from what he saves by employees engaging themselves in really figuring out what's got to go and skewering sacred cows and such. It was a fascinating conversation that I really want to get to know this guy, because
Mm-hmm.
I think he's right to be frustrated with sort of the what's in the air about engagement, the ether. It's kind of sometimes could be considered airy fairy, woo woo, happiness, love, happiness and things. So what do you think of that? What do you think of what he's doing? Do you think that would? And by the way, they had planned to lay off 3,000 people, and that's when an employee said, "You're laying off 3,000 people before Christmas, and yet our executives are flying around on their 4 or 5 or 6 jets all the time. And how does this gel, And that's
Right.
we had that conversation. Well, we're unloading the jets, we're selling them.
Well, that's great. Well, first of all, I think one of the things that needs to happen is leaders need to lead by being out in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the video and at least having that is probably a good thing on some level, and making that organization-wide, that message can be really helpful. If I were to upgrade that message, before I ask for the 10 things, I would mention what it is that I see that I'm doing that hasn't been working.
Wow. Yeah.
So if I've been flying on a corporate jet, I would say I've come to realize that it's not necessary for me to do that. And so I'm going to stop doing that. I think that would go over fairly well. So what does that mean? Lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ask people to offer something that you're not willing to put on the table yourself.
Yeah.
So I always tell leaders, you can't expect to take people to a place you haven't gone yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're asking people to risk naming the sacred cows of the organization, then lead by example and name a sacred cow yourself.
Beautiful. Wow.
That'd be
Yeah.
my coaching.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna direct that gentleman to this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's great. That's great, and I totally get it. You know that gentleman. It's perfect what you just said. Again, it's awesome. It's awesome the insights you have
Thanks.
from
Thanks.
from very simplistic ways of me thinking. You know. So Kevin, what's the biggest well, who's your most favorite client right now, and why?
My favorite. Wow. Well, I have two favorites right now,
Mm-hmm.
and one is working with a heavy civil engineering construction company that I've worked with for quite many years. So that's a lot of fun because they're learning how to lead and grow their market space. So they, over their 50-year history, moved from being a $20 million company to now a $300 to $500 million company.
Mm-hmm.
So the scale of that is fun to do because it's a space that they haven't been in.
Mm-hmm.
So I like helping companies move to a place they haven't been in. I like that innovative space. The other, it's public knowledge, so I can say this, is that I'm working with the Diocese of Orange. So the local Catholic diocese here helped them put together a 3 to 5 year strategic plan and doing executive coaching with the three bishops of the diocese, along with other leaders.
Going back to that theology degree, are you?
Oh, you got to use it some way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like ripping off your skin. You just can't stay away. It's too hard to just really block it out altogether. So congratulations on that. I don't want to ask too much about that, but I did see in your bio that you help new pastors in their churches become better leaders and understand their role as a leader, maybe separate and apart from the pastoral kinds of things. You can't completely disconnect them, but they're probably better pastorally if they're good as a leader.
Well, one of the things that you come to realize, and this is true in other organizations also, it just depends on what the organization has done around engagement and leadership along the way, which is most Catholic pastors have had absolutely no leadership training or management training.
Mm-hmm.
And I often use the example of Diocese of Orange. I said, imagine that you have 64 franchises in your organization, and each of your franchise leaders runs a $1 to $5 million a year operation. And they manage anywhere from 8 to 18 full-time employees. And grounds facilities is a 24/7 kind of operation. And you put people in charge who have absolutely no leadership and management experience. How's that going?
Yeah.
And it's not to be critical, it's just
Sure.
to say it's a lens to look through. But other organizations do that. I mean, other organizations don't do the leadership development, don't do the basic management training and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They just assume by title, I've made you a VP of something, that you should know how to A, run a meeting, facilitate a meeting, work with direct reports. Where did you get that?
That's beautiful. I just think that we'll talk about an entrepreneurial opportunity.
Yes.
To say the least, so you have I know you run your own company, but you have a job for life, right?
That's right.
If you were to expand, outside of where you're working now, just think of the, you couldn't, and it's so appealing though, the way you just said it, I'm just going to call them, most bishops would probably hear that very clearly at the front end. And when you talk about that franchise thing and what they're expected to do, the bishop probably has to become a business person himself,
Oh, but they are the CEO of the
Yes.
diocese. They are the final decision maker about absolutely everything. So, yes, I mean, whether they like it or not, that's the role.
Right.
So, actually, the Diocese of Orange just had their new Christ Cathedral dedication. Used to be the Crystal Cathedral.
Oh, that's in operation now, huh?
That's in operation now, and I was on a bus with a bunch of bishops headed over to the dedication, and one of the bishops said, "So, what's your role here?" And so I told him a little bit of my role, and I said, "I do executive coaching with the bishops." And he said, "Well, aren't you a rare commodity?"
God bless you, my son.
That's right. God bless you in your work. I'll keep you in my prayers, please.
So any back offices with Robert Schuller books just hanging out back there in the Crystal Cathedral?
There's what they've done is they've really honored that legacy.
Cool.
And, so it's very cool because they did something there that was really powerful and profound and worldwide. And because I'm on the campus often, there are people there from all over the world all the time.
Neat. And that is the cathedral now of the Orange Diocese?
It is.
Okay. Wow. That's where the bishop lives and all that.
Well, it doesn't have a residence there, but
Gotcha.
that's it's the cathedral parish. And so when they bought the Christ Cathedral, they bought the Christ Cathedral campus.
I see. Okay.
Hey,
Hey, would you be willing, because I'm in the engagement space, would you be willing to just kind of riff a little bit on your viewpoint about leader engagement, employee engagement? I know it's going to tie into a lot of what you've already said, but maybe there is something else you'd like to say about that engagement.
Well, I think engagement is really about making a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's at the end of the day, is it all about the relationships? Yes, it's all about the relationships. So how are you connected to people? And because all our organizations are run by human beings, you have to realize that that's a fundamental piece. So everyone wants to be loved and to love. And so that's what people are looking for. So if you're truly engaging people, they feel that from you because of what it is that you're doing. So are you available? Do you meet with your direct reports on a regular basis?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have conversations with people? Do you have the executive presence to actually sit down, put everything away, put the phone away, turn away from the computer screen, and have the conversation with someone? And do they walk away feeling like they've really been listened to? If you do those things, and they're really fundamental things, then people feel connected. And when they feel connected, then they can feel engaged. But without the connection, there is no engagement.
Yeah, awesome. I don't think I have to go into the magic model with you because I think the C in magic stands for connection. It's just it's totally necessary. You can't have an engaged workforce without meaning, autonomy. Let's talk about autonomy, Kevin. What are your thoughts about? Let's just say it's a mid-level leader. Call them a manager. Call them a supervisor. Call them a team leader. What kind of autonomy should those people have from their leader?
Well, I think one of the things that leaders need to do is really make clear what the scope of authority is. Mm-hmm. So have you delegated away what can be delegated away, and also make clear what it is that you as a manager want from that middle level person to report up to you in order to get a decision made from them. So one of the things that I find most helpful is that when that leadership connection and relationship, create the clarity. What's your scope of authority? Do I have to come to you to hire somebody or not? Can I do that? What's my budget? Those kinds of things. So all of those things are really helpful in terms of doing that as a mid-level person. And then I think the other piece is that there's always a sense of the manager has to do things. Well, the other piece is, how's the other person managing up? So a lot of my executive coaching with executive teams is really helping people manage up in the organization and really say, what is it that I need to be doing to be most helpful to my leader in order for us to be successful, not just me.
Right, right. Where do you think leadership's going? I've read this book by Jeffrey Pfeiffer called Leadership BS. Have you heard of that book?
I haven't, no.
But basically, he just calls out the, quote, leadership development industry, maybe for well-deserved, that people have been doing it for many years now, and we still have these eruptions of awful things coming out about leaders in corporations, and the Harvey Weinstein thing, and the you get my drift. It's like we like what has not been working, what's been lacking in leadership development that allows someone like Pfeiffer to say, look, leaders can't always be transparent. We say transparency, leaders must be, but on the other hand, he'll say, not always. He's trying to put a little reality into kind of these premises that we put. I'll just say I learned a lot from his book, that no, you have to get the lay of the land, the environment. You can't tell everybody everything, and that's basic. I know you know that, but where do you think, where does leadership development need to go? I guess that's what I'm asking, Kevin. Where does it need to go in, let's just say, in this country?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that happens, and I mostly experience this as an executive coach, is that the higher up you go in the organization, less and less accountability there is in terms of being able to have honest conversations. So one of the things that my role is I on a very frequent basis have unpleasant conversations with executives, because I'm doing a 360 and I'm giving them feedback. I'm sitting in on a meeting and then debriefing that meeting with them afterwards. And so, yes, you can read books, all that's great. You can be exposed to stuff, but it's really, what are your practices? How has leadership development help people to change practices or behaviors so they're doing things differently? And that's really the key. And if we don't hold people accountable to those behaviors and practices, then it's just wonderful reading.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, it's great information, but like anything else, it's like you can read about Spanish, or you can practice speaking Spanish.
Right.
And so those are the distinctions for me. Good to have the knowledge, but you have to have the practice. And so what are the mechanisms within your organization that really have you practice leadership development, where you're practicing, but also getting feedback about it on a regular basis? That's the only way we get better at anything.
Are leaders in general afraid of 360s? Or what's your percentage of those that go, bring it on? I want to know what my team thinks, and I want to know how I'm doing, compared to that person that's just like, ooh.
Because my ideal client is someone who wants to transform themselves in their organization. Most of them are like, let's bring it on. I need honest feedback if I'm going to grow and develop. And so, okay, let's go do that.
Right.
And, I mean, I've had some conversations where I've had to address things like social drinking. Where people said, this person maybe drinks a little bit too much. How do you have that conversation with the CEO who's paying your bill? So,
well, they're probably going to agree with you right away that they might have a problem, right? That usually comes.
Yeah, but I think that for the most part, people are open to that. Most people who made their way to the top are people who want to be successful.
Right.
And so that's what I leverage. I would imagine that you want to be successful, and even more successful than you've been already. So my job is to help make you even better. I'm not saying that you're not doing some really great stuff, and we can also improve. So let's look at the areas where we can improve. So it's affirming and challenging at the same time.
Boy, I'm kind of struggling about what more to ask you. I might be tapped out. What should I have asked you? Oh, I do want to ask you this. Tell me about co-creation. You use that term, and I hear it occasionally when that woman that I sent you to or sent her to you, Ray de Ume, and
Yeah.
I wanted her to. She used co-creation. I go, you got to talk to Kevin. I think you made a pretty good connection with her. So tell me about co-creation and where did that come from in your lexicon and your practice?
That's a great question. And there's a couple of stories. One is, one of the things that I saw in most organizations is that people want to be collaborative, they just don't know how to do it. And so some of the lexicon out there is that we come up with a strategic plan, we want to get buy-in, so all that. And what co-creation does is it says, engage in a collaborative process, have people co-create this with you. When people co-create it, then they own it.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have ownership. Now, do I need to sell you anything that you already own?
Right, right.
So I take buying and selling completely out of that. And so I've used that language a lot. My wife is a senior managing director at a bank, a private bank. And she called me out because she thought it was kind of like this theological language about co-creation. And she's like, I don't know if you can use language like that in business and so on and so forth. And then HBR came out like 7 or 8 years ago on co-creation on the title.
Wow.
For that month's issue. And I thought, finally, I have legitimacy. So,
see this, honey? See this?
Co-creation, baby.
Well, I don't want to get too much into the weeds with the how your wife and you view things, but I'm really interested because she's a senior level person at a bank, financial institution. What does she think about love in the workplace?
Oh, she gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately and/or unfortunately, she's lived with me for years, so she's and she will say that she's been a student of mine for quite some time and found it to be really helpful. So I mean, she's highly talented at what she does, and this area has really, us working together in different areas has really been helpful to her. So it's been great for me because I get insights from her company also.
Awesome, yeah. What if you like me? We're coming on. No, not. No, you like me. You and me are not young men anymore. We are becoming vintage, like a fine wine, right?
There you go. Yeah.
But so what goals? Dumb question maybe. But what do you think like you want to accomplish? Is there another accomplishment that you have in mind for yourself in what you're going to leave to the world when it comes to the kind of work that you've done and the work that you do? Do you have anything that you've been noodling over about where how you want this to, how you want to slide into home, I guess?
That's a great question. The great thing about being an executive coach is that the more experience you have, the better you get. The more seasons you are, the better you are. And so I'll be better in 5 years from now than I am today. I could do this as long as I want.
You like it that much?
Yeah. Oh, I enjoy helping people grow and develop. As a therapist, as an executive coach, quite simply, Doug, I've been having conversations with people my entire career. That's what I do. What do you really do for a living? I have conversations with people. That's what I do. And so, can I continue to have conversations? Yes. The good news is that for me, as a former therapist and as an executive coach over quite some time, I feel like I've gotten enough feedback about how things have been so transformative about people that I'm really blessed and grateful for the impact I've had already. That really, anything forward is really gravy for me. So there's no big accomplish X or accomplish Y. It's continuing to do really good work in the world, being able to show up as the best I can for my clients and for the work that they're trying to do so that they can be successful. So just continuing to be of service to people in the work that I do.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. And I think we kind of wrapped it up. I think that's a good way to kind of close it out today, Kevin. You think you'd be willing to come back in a year or so and check in?
I like you, Doug. I'd come back sooner.
Could you believe in a dream when I tell you that it's true? Could you believe, precious friend of mine? And would you believe when it seems you are glad with what you do? Give you courage to carry. Give you courage to carry. Courage to carry your spirit up on high. Oh, just to carry your spirit up on high. I saw people in trouble, yes, heard the angels cry. And I don't tamper with my children, no, no, made the devil fly. Spent the night with David, he taught me what to say. Well, I was looking for a smooth stone when I heard him pray. Could you believe in a dream when I tell you that it's true? And could you believe, precious friend of mine? And would you believe when it seems you are glad with what you do? It'll give you courage to carry, the courage to carry, courage to carry your freedom up on high.